Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Episode 40, the big 40. 40 episodes since October. Unbelievable. I cannot believe it. Thank you guys all so much for the absolute continued support. You're absolutely making my year. It's been amazing. Let's get the housekeeping stuff out of the way so everyone can come. I can bring my guest in and have some fun here. For our brand new sponsor to the podcast. So we have a sponsor too. How sick is that? Elevation 1470. If you want to be a sponsor, hit me up. I'll love to have you on. We can throw your logo there. We'll find more ways to bring people in. But elevate your style with Fractal's brand, Elevation 1470. Elevation 1470 is reinventing the style by bringing traditional and nostalgic apparel to Frackville and its surrounding Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania areas. They pride themselves on hometown heritage and community. Elevation 1470 is where the trail begins. You can find them at elevation1470.com for all the latest and traditional and nostalgic style clothing in Northeast Pennsylvania. Also, if you go and buy anything and use code I love ABJ, spell it out LOVE, for 15% off the entire shop until the end of March of 2023. So definitely go support them. Also, links below. We have a new merchandise out there, so if you want to rock some ABJ merchandise, it is available for you to do so. I believe there's a sale right now on TeePublic that you can go grab. A brand new logo is in the shop. Pretty excited about it. I always get that I look and sound like Kevin Owens. I don't know, I get it all the time, so everyone's like, oh, you're like the Schuylkill County Kevin Owens, which I'll take because he's probably my favorite wrestler. So he has the duct tape shirt. So now there's a duct tape ABJ shirt. So if you want to go grab the duct tape ABJ, it's available on the website now. T-shirts, merch, it's all there. So go grab the ABJ duct tape shirt. Also, links for myself as well as my guest are below. You can go support them. Adena Steele and Philly Mike's links are still there if you want to support them. Two injured wrestlers that we have previous episodes with. So go check out that content as well. Also, use code ABJ if you're buying tickets for the upcoming Smash Masters show. The Pennsylvania is Wild. They just announced more great matches for that show. So head over to Smash Master Wrestling on all your social media. Use code ABJ. You get a discount off your tickets, and it helps you get in the door. Also, some news next week, or no, today's Thursday. So next Tuesday, we will have Nathaniel Cunningham on the podcast. That'll be episode 41. Ignore the 40 up there. And then to end the month, we'll have Mary Elizabeth, the queen of the independent wrestling scene. She is a goddess. Unfortunately, she has to be with that Tommy Vex guy. Unfortunate. But yeah. And then also just recently announced Uncle Masty wants some more representation on the podcast, the Smash Master Stars. So unfortunately, I am so sorry. I try to stay true to my listeners and my fan base. Ricky Price will be on the podcast. Episode 51. He will close out next month. I apologize. I hope he stays orderly, but yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy that. A lot of great content coming. But without further ado, let's bring in my guest. This is someone, I'm going to sound like a broken record because I said the same thing for Eric, and it stands true for both of them. I got into this as a content creator, a podcaster. These are one of the first people that I got hooked up with, and boy, I couldn't have picked better people. They put me under their wing. They steer me in the right direction. They keep me out of a lot of nonsense, even though I still find my way into it sometimes because I have a big mouth. I'm Italian Irish, but Diamond City War Machines have been like the big brothers of for me and all my podcast journeys and families and everybody I brought into the podcast, who then I brought into the wrestling scene. They've just been amazing to me and everybody around. They are absolute legends, and they treat this business like it should be treated, and they do nothing but try to help the next group get better and get good. And they're just amazing people, and I'm very honored to have Eric on this week, and now ending the week with Brad DeMaio of the Diamond City War Machines. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, buddy? How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I'm glad we're able to finally do this. We kind of did this before at Backbreakers. We had you guys on individually, then together, and then we kind of talked a little bit. But a lot of it, I think, was like more of a kayfabe interview. We were doing stuff for this. So who the fuck is Brad? Peter DeLong in the chat. But yeah, so yeah, man, you have been a little bright spot when it comes, you and Eric, in this business of leading a path and leading by example of what you should and shouldn't do in this business. And I've been to a lot of shows that probably shouldn't have happened, but because that promoter was smart enough to book Diamond City War Machines, you guys have gotten stuff done and gotten stuff done in a record time to make sure shows happened.
Man, I appreciate that. Brad from 10 years ago would probably be like, I'm a shining example of what to do. But I mean, since the comeback and everything else, it's just been about paying it forward. You know what I mean? Like just making it better for the next generation type of shit.
Yeah. Well, I kind of ended the podcast with Eric on some of his trials and tribulations towards the end, where he was going to leave and then had his face ripped off and fixed and put back together. And he sent me the photos in private. Holy Hannah, they're cool.
Ooh, man. So a little bit about that. We'll start with that. I was there that night. He gets in the accident. He goes on social media and he posts a picture of his face. It's just the swelling and the black eye and the blood. And I'm like, hey man, you okay? He's like, I'm walking home. I'll be fine. I'm gonna go home and just try to take a hot shower and I'll let you know what's going on.
Take it like a traditional guy. Just want to go home and sleep this one off. Yeah.
Put some ice on it, rub some dirt in it, sleep it off.
Yeah.
He calls me 2.5 hours later. I think I need some help. And I'm like, you want to go to the hospital? I'll come pick you up. And I went and I got him. And we went to like Wilkes-Barre General and they admitted him. And I went back and I sat with him until like 5 a.m. and they wouldn't give him any pain meds. They wouldn't do anything so they can get like x-rays and see what the swelling would go down, what they can give him. So he just sat there in the dark in pain. And like 5 a.m. he's like, just go home. I'll call you or I'll text you if I need you, but just go home. And the next thing I know, like the next day, he's like, hey man, I'm going in for surgery. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, my whole face is broke. I'm like, okay. And that was, yeah, it was a mess. It was a mess.
I asked him if I always when he sent me the photos, I'm like, did the doctor take a front shot? And he goes, I wish. I'm like, that should have been the photo they took with like it peeled down and like
just no. That, yeah. The body play, the They Live,
yeah.
Just that face would be great.
Speaking of They Live,
what do you got?
The new pro wrestling crate came in.
Oh yeah, some good Piper stuff in there.
Bro, I'm obsessed with this shirt. Sorry, quick side for people listening to audio. I apologize completely. You have no idea what you're doing.
Ooh, look at that.
He's being interviewed by Vince, and Vince is one of the They Live.
One of the They Live. That's dope. That is dope.
I love it. I can't wait. I'm gonna do a video of that later. I'm gonna like unboxing. But yeah, so you kind of were in a boat too, where you wrestled for a while, and we'll kind of backtrack of how you got into the business. But
yeah,
if someone showed me a photo of you before I met you, and I didn't know it was the same person.
Yeah.
What was your highest weight that you were at one point in time?
So I didn't know they made scales that went up so high, like personal use scales. Like I've known of like butcher scales or warehouse scales, but to buy one that went up as high as I weighed, I couldn't get a hold of until I met a friend who I was working with who had bariatric surgery. I was like, no, just go on Amazon. They sell like 800-pound people scales. I'm like, all right, cool. And I bought one, and my highest that I know was 565.
Wow.
Yeah. I was damn near 600 pounds. I couldn't walk more than 2, 3, 4 yards at a time without being red in the face and out of breath. And it's just that was the worst time of my life. And looking back on it, really.
What I'm sorry if you're not comfortable talking about any of this, please just cut me off and we'll move to the next topic.
Open book, man.
what got you to that point? Like where you put the weight on, or were you always a heavier guy? Like I said, I don't know the old Brad. I just know you now.
Yeah. So I was always a chubbier kid, quasi athletic, kind of an overbearing mom because I had asthma and she didn't want me getting hurt or going into an asthma attack per se. But I was always into athletic stuff. I like playing basketball, I like playing baseball, football, that kind of stuff. And I just, at some point in my life, I met a girl and we fell in love, and she went on to become my wife and then my ex-wife. But through that period, she was going through culinary school, and I would just get brought home pastries. And I'm Italian, and good pastries are not hard to find when you're Italian, but when your wife brings them home to you from class, you tend to eat a lot. And then I put on weight there. And then once we separated, I got severely depressed and I was eating my feelings. Like I would go to work and on the way home from work, I would stop at Domino's every night and I would get a large, deep dish meat lovers pizza and a 2 liter bottle of cherry Coke. And that was my dinner every night. And that was 5 nights a week. And the cycle of depression hit and then I ate my feelings. And then one day I was just like, oh look, I can't I can't move. I was still working for GSW backstage doing commentary and booking and I was a mess. You if you came to a show, GSW, I would just set up at commentary and then Gary from Powerbomb would just come set up the stuff around me and Pete would join me and then people who had questions about the show and about their matches would come see me because I couldn't move from there.
You
And
were
when
like a
I did,
fixture.
I had to be. I mean, I was that unhealthy. It was bad. It was very, very bad. And I'm just happy that I was able to find. There was a breaking point before he went on camera. You and me were talking about Kevin Smith, and I remember I woke up one morning in 2018 and I saw an article that said Kevin Smith has major heart attack on stage. Had to have immediate surgery to unblock arteries in his heart. And I'm reading the article and I'm tearing up because I'm a huge Kevin Smith fanboy. And it was like Kevin Smith at 342 pounds, and I was like, wait a minute, wait, hold on.
I'm
He
two of
weighs
that.
three.
Yeah.
I'm two of that,
Mm-hmm.
and his heart stopped on stage or backstage between shows. What's gonna happen? Am I gonna die in my sleep? Am I gonna die at a commentary table? Like I can't have my mother find me dead in my bed. Like I had moved home after my divorce. I can't live like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my wake up call. And I got lucky enough to be hooked up with a friend of mine who was a trainer, certified trainer with DDP yoga, and he hooked me up with a whole bunch of stuff. I got a couple of free months, and this is another thing. I started doing chair workouts. I immediately changed my diet, and I think I cut out all sodas, all carbs. I was down like 1,500 calories a day, and I just kind of put my full force behind that, and it worked, and it kept working. And then someone where I was previously employed said, "Hey, we cover bariatric surgery in our health insurance." I was like, "What, really?" So I looked into that, and then I started on that path and meeting those doctors. And
So what
I
exactly
think
is that? Is that where they shrink your stomach?
so. Yeah, so there's a couple different versions of it. The old school way of doing it is they would just call like a sleeve. They would restrict how big your stomach was with an implant. They didn't do that anymore because it always failed. There was like a Roux Y, which is the basic bariatric surgery. It's what I had, where they just take your stomach and they make it 8 ounces, and then they just connect the end of your stomach. They bypass a whole bunch of your intestines, so that way food doesn't sit; it just goes in and it goes out. And I went through a series of just ups and downs in that. You have to go to classes, you have to see a doctor every week, you're meeting with dietitians, and they tell you right off the bat, hey, we'll accept you in the program, but there's certain requirements you have to meet as you go, or we won't do the surgery. And the first one was all these classes, all this blood work, and that's fine, that's easy. And I was like, you have to lose 10% of your body weight by the time this 6 month or whatever period it was up before we'll consider you for the program or consider you for surgery. I think my first day of weigh-ins, I was like 530 something. I had lost a little bit of weight doing the yoga and the exercise. And by my surgery date, which was less than a year later, I lost 150 pounds on my own.
How
So I
much?
was 150 just through
Wow.
diet, exercise, working out, just all that stuff, going to these classes.
That's 4 Zach Sanders.
Yeah, and I remember they scheduled my surgery, and I'm in the car with my mother, and she's driving me to the hospital, and we're at a red light, and she says, "Hey, just so you know, I can just turn around. We can go home." She said, "You lost 150 on your own. Who knows how much you can lose by yourself?" And I thought about it, and in reality, she's right. I could have just easily just kept it going, just kept that ball moving. But I know I have an addictive personality, and I know that um, one bad week, one bad day could go from me working out twice a day and tracking my calories and doing this and that to eating two pizzas a night again. And then all that work is gone, and then I end up dead again.
Yeah.
So the bariatric surgery wasn't a cheat. It was my fail safe that no matter how bad it would get, I only have an 8-ounce stomach now, and I can't do anything bad. And I think during the pandemic I put on a little bit of weight. So a lot of us were stress eating, and I was doing a lot of shit like that. But I mean, it saved my life.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that saved my life, and it rejuvenated my career, rejuvenated my drive to want to do what I've always wanted to do, and that's be
I'm trying to think. When I met you, you were in the gym phase, like you were still working
Yeah.
out. You were smaller, and then
Mhm.
someone said like, "Oh, you should see pictures," because there was two people that came to conversation about like your transformations. It's you and Joe Davis,
Yeah.
and
I didn't.
I seen
Yeah.
photos of you. Like, holy shit! Like, good for him. Like, I was very
Yeah.
proud of you.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you pictures, man. I keep one in my like a great before and after in my favorites on my phone. It's just people are like, well, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Here's me 2016," and it's just like I'm on a chair at a GSW show, like using my stomach as a table. And then the other one is from GSW one more time in February 2020, right before the pandemic hit, and I am just like probably my lowest weight was then. I think I was like 232, 233 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ballooned for myself. It's not balloon, but I'm at 260 right now, and that's a little bit higher than I want to be. But I mean, at the same point, I'm not 560 anymore. You know what I mean?
You look like a good 260 though. Like you're in the gym, you're working out, you're doing everything
Yeah,
you got to do. You know what I mean? You're
I feel like a
moving
good
very
260.
you're
Yeah, it
moving
feels like
very
a good
well in the
260.
ring. You're doing like
Thank you.
what? So at what point in your weight loss journey and doing everything did you decide? Okay, I'm going to go from the chair to back in the ring again.
Day one, that was I think I talked to Kit and a couple of the guys and was just like, Toxic and those all the GSW folks and even Eric and Ref Matt. I was like, the end goal is to get back in the ring and to at least to go out on my own terms. Because when I left wrestling, when I got out of the ring my last time, it definitely wasn't
What year was that?
2015, late 14, early 15. I had my last match was in GSW. It was like an 8-man tag, and it was embarrassing. It just was just bad. It was just BA bad. But I knew at that point, that night when I got out of that ring, that I needed to make a change, but I couldn't make the change yet. So I said,
Mhm.
"Hey, I'll go backstage. I'll get behind the microphone. I'm a pretty good promo. I'll help out. I think I've been watching wrestling my whole life. I think it can help write stories." And all those guys at GSW, Joey Image, John Salinas, Matt, Chris Decker, they were like, "All right, well, listen, we don't want to book you where you book. Here you go. Here's the book. Do your thing. You want to do commentary? You want to take that over as your special project? There you go." And I threw myself into that role because I thought at the time it was my only way to stay relevant in
And
our
be around your
business.
friends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could still be with them, and even though I couldn't be in the ring, I could still contribute intellectually and vocally to at least help the product a little bit.
Yeah. Now, before you exited wrestling, were you still Diamond City War Machines? Or
No,
was Diamond City War Machines a thing, or was that the return of
that
you?
was a return. Yeah, Eric was doing the fundraise with him and AJ Evers, and then he had stopped for a little bit. He was doing photos at that point. I was in a tag team, the Diamond City Kings, with me and Mike Vaughn and Nat Turner. Uh, and then that just became I got stepped out and I let them do the tag team stuff. And I managed them for a while, and they split up, and that was into that. When I made the comeback, I didn't even me and Eric teaming up wasn't even on the board at first. It was the Diamond City War Machine was my original idea just for myself. And then all the stuff happened with Eric, Sabine, Ref Matt, and then we get into doing this. I was like, well, why don't we do this together? We've always been on opposite sides of the ring. Me and Eric were always foes. And kind of being the last two standing from that era, from that era of what we were doing. it kind of made sense just to team up and teaming with Eric's been a blast. We just go out there and we have so much fun.
I think I'm trying to remember the first time I met you guys or worked with you or really seen you guys. And the earliest memory I have, I think, is maybe the GSW reunion show, but I feel like we've seen you before then. Maybe it was PPW or Outbreak or something. But
we probably did, definitely was PPW, because I know I was doing some stuff without Eric there because I was teaming with Trajan. Nice shirt, by the way. I miss the daddy of the galaxy.
I miss him so fucking
much. Me and him were doing stuff there. I know, I think you were there doing just like content stuff, and me and Eric was there. I was there doing stuff with Trajan. That may be when we first laid eyes.
I know Header joined the podcast, and I remember Header being like, "Yo, you would get along very well with Diamond City. You're very similar to you. They love pro wrestling. They're into pop culture. They're giant nerds. Like they are like we're like a birds of a feather." And he wasn't wrong, and we stuck to each other like glue. But I remember the GSW show. I've never been a part of GSW. I've never experienced GSW. But I went to the reunion show, and it was right before the pandemic. And I remember just being like, this is what a locker room should be. Like that locker room environment was amazing. And it was the first time I seen Kit, and I immediately fell in love with Kit. I'm like, this guy's my new favorite wrestler. Like I just love what he brings to the table. And then I met Trajan, and then I met Matt Turner for the first time, and Eric, and I was AJ Evers there that night? I don't remember.
Maybe he might have been. I have to go back and look at footage. That night,
who were the two dudes that were like the money team? They were in the tag team match.
The Cash Masters, man.
Cash Masters. They were really. I haven't seen them since I think that night, but they were really cool. It was a fucking amazing show, and I just remember not even being a part of the GSW family and are knowing anything about that promotion. It was just like, oh, this is special. Like this is. He fought Trajan that night. All I remember is Trajan kissed the referee. He kissed the ref. He goes, you're going to make me do this in front of my lady right there? And he kissed him on the mouth. And I was like, and then after the show and the fans left, Trajan just walked around in his underwear the whole time.
That's a Trajan staple that he learned from Jamie Senegal.
Yeah.
That was passed down. Passed down. Yeah.
But I just remember being like, this is what a locker room should be. And then going to Smash and High Tension and Sanctuary, and I was like, oh, that makes sense because this is, and then Backbreakers, the small times I was welcome in there. I was like, oh, this is what a locker room should be.
Yeah, heck yeah! That I remember. Yeah, we had you at the GSW show. We invited you guys to come and set up and do interviews and everything you needed to do.
We didn't do anything. We got there.
The banner went up and you guys just hung out. It was great.
Yeah. What happened was we brought everything backstage. It was our first time. The week before that we did Outbreak and we did stuff backstage, but we were like by ourselves in a room where it was just like a promo room. Yeah. And then we got there and we were in the locker room and I had a camera and everything set up. And I remember being back there and I'd never been in a locker room before. And I was like, felt weird. I'm like, I don't belong here. Like I didn't pay any dues yet. Like, cause you know what I mean? And I just remember everyone just started changing. And I was just like, I look at Brian, I'm like, let's get the fuck out of here. And we left. And then we went back in to go do an interview and everybody was talking and feeling the vibe and really catching up with each other. And it was just like we read the room and realized that if we would have pulled people away to do interviews and stuff, it would have taken away from everyone's reunion. So I looked at Brian, like, let's pack up. And we just packed everything up. We put it back in the car and we just sat and hung out and enjoyed the show. Yeah.
I think if the pandemic didn't happen, there probably would have been more GSW shows and we probably would have got back in the swing of things. And at that point, you guys would have been there every show doing whatever you guys needed to do. But yeah, that night was very cathartic for a bunch of us to get able to do that each other one more time. And if we had known what was coming several weeks later, we probably would have made more respectful of the whole thing.
That was the first time I met Phil. The first time I met Phil was that show.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
The logo for Tornado Tag spawned from that show.
That was that night. That was
Kit and Adena killed each other. It was really, really good.
And now they're in love. Look at that.
Yeah. They weren't even dating at the time.
No, not at all.
Yeah. She was with that cool cat guy.
Sure.
Yeah. Who I thought came out behind the curtain naked because his pants were the same color as his skin.
Yes, very odd choice. But yeah. Yep. Very odd choice for gear.
Like, where's his pants?
I thought the same thing.
No, that was really fun. Hunter has a question in the chat. If you guys have questions or anything you want to interject, please put them in the chat. We'll get them in. But he says that what was your reaction to your family of you losing over 300 pounds? Must have been pretty proud, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Everything. My mom has been nothing but supportive. Stepdad, same thing. I have a little brother. He's 28 now. And him and his girlfriend have been nothing but great. Even my middle brother Patrick, they were been nothing but supportive everywhere I go. Every time I see a new family member I haven't seen in a while, it's a whole lot of Jesus. Where'd all of you go? But I mean, yeah, they've been right there the whole time. Again, my mom saying you don't have to go through with this. You can do it on your own was a great vote of confidence. But even though I went through with it, she has been there the whole step of the way. And my comeback match, my mom does not come to see me wrestle. She will not do it. She's done it like 3 times in my entire career. The first night, my best friend turned on me and beat me up in front of her, and they had to stretcher me out because of the neck injury gimmick. The second time they came, Matt Turner, I got busted open hard way, and it bled everywhere. My mom's like, "Why do I come to these?" And then the third time was my return show where me and Eric did a bunch of dumb stuff, and I got put through a door, and we did like Lego spots and whatnot. She's like, "I'm done. I can't anymore."
You're like, my mom's here. Can we turn up to 11 tonight?
Yeah, pretty much. That's how it always goes. Yeah.
Every match I've ever seen you, it's. I don't want to say it's a simple match, but it's clean, it's cut, it's safe. Yeah. It gets to I think the only time I've ever seen you get nuts is twice. One wasn't technically your guys' fault. Somebody decided to hit Eric with a chair, and the second time it was planned, and you guys had a match, and you allowed yourself to get stabbed with a fork. Yeah, I
called for that too, by the way. Just a heads up. My fork, my tape job on the fork. I called the fork spot. No, man, I used to do that stuff all the time when I was a young dumb child, and I listened to the Eric podcast. I listen at work, so that's my preferred method. And yeah, we do keep things a little bit basic. We can work super simple, or we can do all the high spotty stuff. I'm a great base. I was trained in lucha. I could be a base for anything. And I love doing that stuff. And if anyone wants to do that stuff, I'm there for it. But yeah, that horrorcore, the 4-way tag, remember when Rosh pitched that to me and I was like, oh, this sounds like a cluster. I can't wait. It's going to be great. And we had a blast, man. Yeah.
I remember you walking out with a stop sign with the ABJ sticker on it.
Yep. Yeah. A backpack that had dog collars and chains in it. And we had that match was a lot of fun. Yeah.
For the longest time, our wrestling group chat, it was your bloody face smiling ringside. That was our icon for the chat.
Oh man!
But let's rewind a little bit here. Let's get back. When did you fall in love with professional wrestling, and what was your earliest memory of getting involved or becoming a fan?
My grandfather, my mom's dad, was always a fan. And I would sit down with him on Saturday mornings. We would watch like Wrestling Challenge. And then as we got a little bit older, we found out that, Sunday nights or Saturday nights, 6:05 on TBS, where the good stuff was. That's where the NWA was and WCW. And we would just watch. And I would just be in awe. And my mom hated it. I mean, she liked Rick Rude, but I think for other reasons. But then I came up as a child in the 80s, so the CYC in Scranton was where all the big shows were. So as a kid, I had seen Andre there. And as I grew up, I had seen more shows there. And I got to see these big people. And then I paid for my own tickets, front row, for the last ever WWE house show or WWF house show at the CYC, where DX told the Bishop to suck it. And then that was into that. So I had come up as a fan my entire life. The wrestling toys, wrestling on TV, rock and wrestling, the TV, all the cartoon, everything. And it was never downplayed in my house. My grandfather loved it. My grandmother loved it. So we would all just watch it together. So yeah, that's where the love stemmed out of.
Who's some of your favorites?
Growing up, man, I was always a Hulkamaniac. As a little kid,
I never got into Hulk Hogan.
I just bought a hook, line, and sinker. And as I grew up a little bit, 8, 9, 10 years old, I got into the Macho Man. And then I was like, ooh.
I was a Savage guy.
Yeah. I mean, then as I'm watching more WCW, I became a Horseman kid. And then into my teenage years, I got lucky enough to get turned on to ECW early.
Yeah.
I
I didn't watch anything but WWF. I felt like if I watched anything else, I was a traitor. I was one of those fans. And I remember watching it and everyone's like Hulk Hogan, and my parents are buying me all Hulk Hogan stuff. I'm like, can you stop? They're like, why? I'm like,
yeah,
even
I
as
like
a kid,
that crazy guy.
even as a kid, I was like, I hate the fact that I know he's gonna win every match. I hate the fact that like his matches are boring and predictable. To me, like even watching like Saturday morning cartoons is like it always ends in a happy ending. And I was like, I get bored with that. Like I want some craziness. That's like even like as a kid, I got into horror movies and stuff because I was like, you know what I mean? But I always liked the bad guys. I liked Piper. I liked Ray. I liked Perfect. I liked Jake the Snake, who I just met last weekend, which was
a great dude.
Dude, I don't really mark out super heavily when I'm in a room full of people, and I remember I just kept looking over at Jake. I'm like, that's fucking Jake. Like,
being with him in a room at first it's intimidating.
He scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I was generally afraid of him.
I met him. We did a clinic with him years ago. This is before he was sober, so it was like Jake's gonna show up and let's see what happens. And we got there, and he showed up a little bit late. He got late from the airport, and then the first 2.5 hours of the clinic was all lecture. And when you're getting lectured by Jake Roberts, who is maybe the most innovative mind in our sport and can cut a promo like nobody else, I just sat there and wrote for 2.5 hours. And he's like, all right, I think we're warmed up. Let's get some ring action in. And so everyone gets lined up, and the first two guys get in there, and he tells them what to do, and they just shit the bed. And Jake's like, what the fuck is this? And I was like, uh-oh. And literally, the rest of the clinic, no one was allowed in the ring. He just made us line up in two opposite lines, and we just did lockups for two more hours. You would just lock up, and he would go down the line, and he would be like, that's wrong, and he'd just chop you. And he'd tell you, and then you moved, and you were next person. It was 2 hours of that. By the end of the day, my entire collar and elbow tie up, I was red raw behind the neck, red raw in my inner arm, and it was just like we drove home from Philadelphia that day with like ice packs on us, but like this is the greatest day of my life. Yeah. But I mean, yeah.
I walked up to his table, and I'm looking at his 8x10s, and he's obviously the old 8x10s, and then there's the one with the snake on Macho Man's arm. And I said, well, I'm gonna get my childhood trauma autographed today. And I handed it to him. I said, you fucked me up as a kid with this, Jake. And he goes, you and a lot of other people, right?
Yeah.
and then I was like, I said, dude, I remember I learned about snakes because of you, because you made me afraid of snakes. Like you scared me as a kid. I was like, your character was unbelievable. Like you are like a bright spot of my wrestling childhood. And like I was thinking about it, like as I was like about to get up to him, I was like, I'll never meet Piper. I'll never meet Perfect. I'll never meet Razor. I'll probably never meet Sean, realistically. Like that was probably my last and only opportunity to ever meet that guy. And I just remember being like, thank you for everything. And I was like, I thought you killed Macho Man that day. And he goes, I tried, kid. I tried. Like, I was like, and just hearing his voice, I was I went up to Skyros. I went up to Skyros and Riley and Mike. And I was just like, I literally am 6 years old right now. Like I was so happy. Like the whole time I kept looking at Sky, I was talking to Skyros. I'm like, bro, that's fucking Jake the Snake right there. Like the Steiner brothers are there, $1 Million Man's there, all these people, and I just couldn't stop staring at Jake. Like I was a mark, definitely. Yeah, Vincent like Torres says in the chat, judging by the shirt, I'm assuming you're a fan of old school Noah. Who are some of your favorites, and what were some of the things you've learned by watching them?
So yeah, huge Mythical fan, as you could tell by the shirt. I got into Japanese wrestling the old-fashioned way in the 90s. That was tape trading. And I would go to ECW house shows or ECW arena shows, and I'd buy tapes from Japan, and then I would, make copies. I think they could say that now. And you just trade, and I would just get all these great like old All Japan shows and New Japan shows. And then when the split happened, and this one, everyone else went to Noah, it was like it was amazing. And I could still go and watch those shows. I was just watching Misuwa Kobashi, the infamous the suplex off the apron or off the stage onto the floor. I watched that last week. I mean, I still go back and I watch that older early 2000s.
I gotta get better at my Japanese wrestling.
Oh man, it's just
Isn't
it's
GCW
so
next
good.
weekend doing a GCW versus Noah show, or is it GCW versus DDT?
I'm not sure. I'd be curious to find that out myself.
I think one of the collective shows is GCW versus, and I think it's either Noah or it's DDT. I gotta I'll look it up real quick. But also I
DDT
know,
makes more sense, but I
yeah,
mean it could be
I
no
know
for sure.
yeah, it's GCW versus DDT.
Yeah.
And then Noah is doing a show against New Japan Wrestling coming
Yep.
up very soon. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and though in the last like earlier this year, all the Muda retirement stuff like across all those companies was fantastic to see.
It's
And I
crazy
mean
to see
that's
everyone playing ball with each other.
I mean for
It's
Muda, you got to. And I mean he's going
yeah.
to the WWE Hall of Fame this year. The man's never worked a day in his life for the E. I mean, and there he is. But I mean that's great because the man's a legend. And I mean a lot of my Smash Mouth tag team style stuff I learned from, Dr. Death and Terry Gordy. I mean, Miracle Violence Connection stuff in like the 90s that really shaped my, oh, you can just beat dudes up as in tag team wrestling. This is great. This is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then everything that followed from that.
Little
Terry Gordy. Hey,
Gavin and
man.
John in the chat says, "Great show, Mr. Anthony. Love your story and Big Brother Brad."
I love that kid.
He's the best. He's the
Yes.
absolute best. So where now you're transitioned from a fan to you wanted to do this, you want to go to school, you want a backyard and then go to school. Kind of walk us through that story. I know it's gonna be very similar to probably the Eric and the Pin Hat story, or the Pin Hat as well as the JS Michaels story, maybe a little bit, right?
They kind of all intersect at some point. Yeah. So, um, my friend John Eibach, who might be in the chat right now, I
He
knew
was
him
earlier,
for,
yeah.
yeah, we hung out for a long time, and our friend Joe Sposto, and we kind of all did some weird backyard stuff. And John kept his kind of ear to the ground on the internet back then about local shows. And he got like an email blast from this company called Valley Championship Wrestling running out of Cafe Metropolis in Wilkes-Barre. He's like, hey, you want to go? And it's wrestling. It's in Wilkes-Barre. And it's like $3 a ticket. Fuck, yeah, let's do this. So we get there, and literally we're like the biggest dudes there. And like, 'cause it's all punk rock kids. It's all just like scene kids. And there's just this wrestling show and this little 12 by 12 handmade wooden ring. And it's just like, what am I witnessing? And then like the stories were compelling and the bumps were fun and people were really, really into it. And I was like, oh, okay. I kind of want to come back to this. So we go next month. And then people are talking to us. And then out of nowhere, the guy who sends out the email blast says, hey, we're looking for new wrestlers. Are you guys interested in wrestling? And that guy ended up being Pete DeLong, um, who was
What a
wrestling
guy.
back. Yeah. And then I remember me and John went to our first Valley Championship Wrestling like practice tryout night. And that's the first night I met Eric. And we get in the ring and the no ropes aren't up. It's just kind of it's right now it's a stage. They took the post down. It's just the ring itself with no ropes, nothing on it. And the guy running it, Larry Morris, is like, "Hey, you're too big to fall in this ring. You can't bump, but we can teach you how to give people moves." And I was like, oh, "Okay,
Well,
weird."
that's where your good base came in.
Yeah, that's where it started. And I remember one of the first things I did, I think I power bombed Eric. It was maybe one of the first things I ever did in a wrestling ring because he was smaller than me. And then they had us doing strikes. Let's see how you strike. And my friend John was a big Vader mark then, might still be now. And he's doing like the Vader, like the open forearms to the side of the head. And he 1-2'd me, and I got my first concussion that night. Because he rocked me so good.
And nobody knew what concussions were then.
No, honest to God. Yeah. And that's how it started. That was our first night there and our first week there. And then I think we both debuted, me and Eric debuted in December of 1999 on the same show in the same segment. And I beat him and the other two ring crew guys up. And it's just been
so you and Eric never teamed until this return, like both your returns.
We did like a 1 or 2 off thing here or there, but like never as like a cohesive unit. I was either in the Hardcore Mafia and he was in the ring crew and we feuded with them. And later on, like they were doing the Zoo Crew stuff and I was there kind of doing Hardcore Mafia stuff. It all blended together at one point. But yeah, that was my introduction.
This is why talking to people like you is why I am so like proud that I'm helping with Smash and High Tension with their YouTube stuff and making playlists and helping everyone get like that. You can go on those pages and type in your name, and every match you've ever done is there. Because like you and Brad never, or you and Eric never worked really on teams, and then like how many years later in your wrestling twilight, you guys are now as a team and you're redoing everything, and now you're giving back. But like now you have these people like your MITs and your Ricky Prices, even though he's a big dirtball scumbag. All these people who are coming up now, and we take pride in the production side of things as well, and videotaping that when they're, you know, getting up there, or they've been putting 15, 20, 30 years into this business, it's all there for them. Like, you guys don't have that luxury. You know what I mean?
I mean, a friend of mine, a Frankie, an old associate in the Hardcore Mafia, he digitized every VHS tape of ours, and it's on YouTube. It looks like it's recorded on a potato. It is like grainy as all. J.S. Michaels knows exactly what I'm talking about, because we're trying to get a hold of all that footage too. But it just looks like if you don't know who you're looking at or what you're looking at, you probably can't tell what it is at all.
Yeah.
It's like
J.S. Michaels says that ring had so much of Brad's blood on it. It was basically one of his body parts.
Yeah, my first ever main event in VCW came like 4 months into me being in the company, and I was under a mask for a while there, and I demasked, joined the Hardcore Mafia, became a big Italian bad guy. And in my first main event, I fought the champion, who came to the ring with his belt. He had a box with unknown substance in it, and he had a giant machete.
The machete was in the comments. I didn't get a chance to get it, so I'm glad you're getting to the machete, because someone did request the machete story.
So the machete story. Let's go right. And by the way, Frank just texted me and said, "Screw you, LOL." Yeah. But I think it was in love. The machete story. March of 2000. The night before the show, we'd always like do setup the night before, because it's a small punk rock club. You had to clean up, set up, come back the next day. And I'm there, and the guy in the fighting the next day comes in, and he's like, "Hey man, I just got this at a flea market today." And he pulls this giant machete, and I'm like, cool machete. He's like, "I'm going to use it tomorrow in the match." And I'm like, get fucked. No.
Yeah, not a chance.
He's like, he unsheathes it and starts hitting himself in the arm with it. And it's dull. It's dull. It's like nothing. I'm like, oh. He's like, yeah, we'll do a spot with blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, yeah, if it works in the match, we'll figure it out tomorrow. And at the time, I was still young in the business, where you had to map out move A, move B, the whole way through the match. We had it all scripted.
You were like Steamboat Savage.
Yeah, it was all written down. Not written down, but we knew what we had to do. So the turn comes. The place is crowded. It's like shoulder to shoulder jammed in there. Your homeboy comes out with the knife, and they take it off him. They get it away from him. That was the first night I did barbed wire. That's the first time I could put through a table. I bled like crazy that night. So he got the barbed wire at one point, and he drags it across my arm. I'll show you next time in person. I have a huge scar on my arm. So I'm going to pull back the curtain. I don't care. He gets through the barbed wire. I get my gig. Boop, cut my arm. Did the Foley IWA deathmatch stuff. We trying to go at it. I'm bleeding a little bit. I'm like, all right, cool. People are like, oh my God, he's bleeding. Sewing up. And unbeknownst to me, homeboy pulls out from his tights, or from his boots, a fork. And I'm like, I don't see it. He didn't tell me he had a fork.
We're doing our bull spots. Yeah.
He takes my arm, and he just goes to the fork. And there's a trick to the fork. Of course there is, but we're children. Again, I'm 19. He may have been 17. And he just drives the fork into my arm. And this little itty bitty cut that was there from the razor blade is now a gigantic arm vagina. That is just blood is pouring down my arm. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. So like they don't stop the match. I like get up in the dude, and then my buddy Paul and our other security guy Volch are trying to like find where the cut is and like do a tourniquet to stop the blood. But they did it wrong, and now I'm just bleeding over bandages.
And they then put it below the cut, not above the cut.
Yeah. It was genius children stuff that we were doing. We're going, and something else happens, and I'm down again, and he gets the machete, and now the place is like losing it. People are leaving. They're afraid for their lives. And I sell up. I know the machete's coming, and I'm like, all right, here we go. and he gets it. I'm trying to fight it.
It's nice and dull. Yeah.
It's like I'm trying to fight it. And he gets to my forehead, and I cut, and I pop back, and I'm just like bleeding. And I can see friends of mine in the back room just giving the big thumbs up. Looks great. Women and kids are running out the door. They think I just got assaulted with a goddamn machete. I lose. I get put through a table with like a German suplex. I lose. We get up on the dude afterwards. What he came out with in the container was shards of broken glass. Put that over a table. I chokeslam him off the apron through the table, steal his heavyweight title. And the idea was I run out the back door of Cafe Metropolis. I make my way around the block to the other back door where the locker room is, and I'm safe. Grab the belt. I'm fighting through people who are partying like the Red Sea because I'm just covered in my own blood. I get 3 steps out the door. I hook a left to go down towards around the block, and I fall. I'm just out. And I'm propped up against in front of this shitty little strip club in fucking downtown Wilkes-Barre, and people are walking up to me like, "Hey man, that was the craziest shit I ever saw in my life. We'll be back. Awesome stuff." And I'm just like, just bleeding, just profusely everywhere on the gutters of Wilkes-Barre. So yeah, they bring me back inside, and then I was 19, no health insurance, and they just put super glue on my arm and just put tape around it, and I didn't die. So that's a plus.
Pete says, I remember watching Brad and John teeing off each other that day. My jaw was on the floor. Should I have a photo of you getting done up with a machete somewhere? Yeah. I thought you meant the Eddie machete story. LOL. If we didn't have super glue and duct tape, Brad would not have survived that night. He would have perished in the streets of Wilkes-Barre.
Oh yeah.
And don't call that strip club shitty. What strip club is it?
Oh, what was it? It was someone in the chat has to know. What was the name of that strip club?
Is it still there?
No, God, no. They closed that place down years ago, at least 10, 15 years ago. If someone brings it up in the chat, I'll know. But
I want to. So one of my things I want to do is I want to do brewery and dive bar reviews. But I'm not opposed to doing strip club reviews. I mean, we can't film in there, but we'll go in and then we'll go out in the parking lot and be like, "Here's what happened."
man. The stories I can tell you, but I'm not going to tell you.
Oh my God. I have amazing, dude. Every time I go to a strip club, the best things in the world happen to me. I watched a girl. This is not like a sexual one, but I watched this girl next to me at Leave It to Beavers, blackout drunk. Has a pint of Ben and Jerry's ice cream, and she's sitting there next to the stage, and she's hammering. She goes, "Oh fuck, I don't have a spoon," and she's just talking to herself, and I'm just like, "No, you don't." So she starts eating it like a Flintstones push-up pop. She's just smushing a pint of ice cream, and she's eating it, and it's all over her face. It's all over
out of here.
Ice cream everywhere. I was like, "This is the greatest night of my life."
So again, Frankie comes through with the win. It was called Toppers.
Yeah.
Topper. It was terrible. Yeah. Another quick strip club story. Later on, there used to be a strip club called the Tilbury in West Nanticoke. Oh, horrendous strip club. You would just go there, and they had food to order, but it was just instant ramen. They would just bring you a cup of noodles. And the girls would just have to put their own money into the jukebox and the stage to play. It was amazing. It was the go-to place after several local valley shows. Yeah.
Wrestling and strip clubs. I think that's a dying art. I think we should bring it back.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I mean, yeah.
We, and what I know we all like to go to classics after a show, but I think one time we should probably take a swing to a strip club after.
We could probably find one here.
Yeah, we can definitely figure it out. She's Lindsay, since she's a brilliant drunk. That was Leo's Roadhouse.
Leo's Roadhouse. The Tilbury is another place. Thank you, Pete. I knew Pete would come in handy with that. Leo's was, that place was a mess. So that place was a mess.
Let's go back. Let's rewind again. Tarantino, the story. You're looking for you go through all that. You're going through. You go from the backyards, and we talked about how you're wrestling for this place that gets shut down because other promotions are like, wait a second, these are just a bunch of kids that are untrained. They don't have licenses. They're not playing by the rules.
Yep.
They need to get the fuck out of town. Then you're in the same boat with the rest of them, where then you find backbreakers, or is there something in between?
No. So there's something in between that. So right at the end of the run of Valley Championship Wrestling, a mutual friend, moves to the area, sees that we are a wrestling company. He's a trained wrestler. he needed someplace to work out. That person is Phil Stamper. Phil Stamper was an RA at Misericordia, which is like up in Dallas, our area up here. And he, honest to God, he shows up one night with his duffel bag, and there's just these kids in this building just being dumbasses. And Phil, I don't more hyping praise on Phil because he didn't leave and just never come back. Because he could have easily just been like, I'm out. I don't need any of these kids. But he took a bunch of us under his wing. He found a building in Allentown that had an actual ring.
How old is Phil?
He's a time lord, so I don't think he actually has an age.
He looks super young. Like when people tell me stories, I'm like, they make it feel like he's like much older than everybody. I'm like, he looks amazing.
He's a time lord, yeah, for sure.
I think he's a vampire. He's a wrestling vampire, is what he is.
It's a good possibility. So he finds this building, and 3 days a week he was training us, and then not unbeknownst to us, he was also on the other days of the week training another group of kids. And at some point, Phil trains us, and we're doing good things. And he's like, "Hey, by the way, I have this other guy who wants to come in and help train. His name's Mike Quackenbush." And being someone at the time who was in tune with independent wrestling, I knew Quack was like the go-to dude.
One of life's greatest mysteries is Phil's age.
I
told Phil how much. I told Phil how much he's been brought up on this podcast, and he goes, "Really?" I go, "Bro, yes." So he's on the list, possibly June.
He is. Possibly he is a June. Wealth of knowledge, man.
I love it. Yeah.
And so yeah, him, Quack, and Phil trained us, and then our first independent wrestling show was technically a VCW show, but only had 2 matches that featured VCW originals, so to say. It was me and my tag partner Joe in a tag match against J.S. Michaels and Phil Stamper as a tag team against Chili Palmer and Sensation Juan Cruz. And then the other match was Frankie Angelini and Halo was the owner of the company. They were the main event, but we were the only 2 matches of the original kids. In our 3-way tag, Quackenbush was actually our referee. And so again, Mike taught me a lot of what I knew about Lucha Libre, a lot of what I knew about putting a match together, tag match together. And moving forward from that, I was able to go back and watch a lot of old tag team wrestling and see the things he taught us in action there. And yes, from there it was just like, oh, here we go. And then at some point, a year or so after that, it's kind of when Backbreakers came to the area, and me and Joey went there first just to get ring time. And while we were there, I was like, oh, wait, they can train people? And that's when I called Turner, and I called Eric and Kev, and I was like, everyone get your ass to Backbreakers. Let's get you guys in here, because they weren't part of the initial wave that Phil trained. They probably would have been on like a secondary wave, but things didn't really work out like that. So we got them into Backbreakers. They came, they did all their things. Me and Joey got the boot for, I don't know why. I'm not even going to get into that. But then everything kind of came from there, really.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's crazy, man. Like, essentially, Quack cut his teeth on you guys before then creating what we now know as Chikara.
So, yeah. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Quack trains us, gives us a stamp of approval. Me and Joey just start doing any shows we can. And again, there was not a thriving indie scene in northeastern Pennsylvania.
And Lindsay goes Italian ASL.
Me.
Dude, I have to put something in my hand and play with it under here.
I try to put my hand under a blanket. I'm just not working.
I literally, if you see I always have something in my hands and I'm playing with it underneath, so I don't, because I used to do that all the time when
yeah. I told myself before it started, just keep your hands under the blanket here and just don't pick them up. And I'm just screw it, we're here.
Yeah, I love it.
Me and Joey, every weekend, we're going to Massachusetts because that's the only place we can find work. Phil was like, hey, I know all these companies up there. They're going to book you. Just go. And maybe about 6 months into that, we get an email from Quackenbush that says, hey, I'm starting school in Allentown. I've already partially trained you guys. I'll cut you in for this much. It's this much off the regular price. And me and Joe were like, no, you trained us already, man. We're good. So yeah, turned down. Yeah, just blindly turned down first class Chikara. So that's that.
Yeah, and I mean, who came out of there? Only like Punk,
yeah,
Brian, and
Kingston.
Eddie Kingston.
Orange
Yeah.
Cassidy. Yeah.
I mean, we don't need Eddie Kingston. We have Kit Raff.
I mean,
I told
getting
him that
those
the
two
other day.
together. I think getting those two together would be a.
I literally been watching Kit Raff for 3 years, and then at the Smash show against MIT, I was like, Kit Raff is the 570 version of Eddie Kingston. And I told him that, and he goes, everyone says that.
Yeah, those two need to meet.
It's not a bad thing. Eddie Kingston's amazing.
No. Yeah, Eddie's the man for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So backbreakers. I mean, you go through that list of people from the 570 who came out of there, and holy Hannah. And you guys were training with Glory at that point in time, right? He wasn't even the owner.
Yeah, Johnny Glitter Sr. was the owner proprietor of Backbreakers at the time, and like Eric said in his interview, he was there for Glory's first bump. I was there for Glory's tryout. Yeah, we were there to watch Glory take the baby steps. At some point, Backbreakers like left the area. They went up to like New England, and Glory just followed. And at some point, while they were up there doing that, that's when Justin bought out. Like Johnny was trying to get out of the business. Glory took the whole thing over, purchased it, brought it back to the area, and that's when they were in like Washington Avenue in downtown Scranton there. And that's where like all the pay-per-view classes would happen, all like the seminars. That's where the germ of doing the Global Force Wrestling show with Jared, all this stuff was born out of there.
Yeah. Now we went through a quick timeline. I'm sure we can do much more of this, and the door's always open to keep going with more stories. But going through what you went through with the promotion of essentially being a bunch of backyarders who got a venue, who turned it from an outside venue to an inside venue, and doing a lot of great things there are backbreakers, and then going on to helping all these other Northeast promotions. What are some of your favorite locker rooms, and what makes these locker rooms of today different from the past?
So Eric touched on it a little bit. I don't have a favorite locker room, because honestly, like once you're in a locker room with a lot of the same guys from this area, you kind of realize that the heart isn't just in one place. It's everywhere. They all kind of bring that same drive. And when they don't, you can tell. And when people who are there who don't care, you can tell. Our GSW locker room, I felt, was always focused on moving the company forward. It was never focused solely on one person. I see a lot of that in Smash. When we worked for True a lot, I saw a lot of that True. Backbreakers, Glory always held everyone kind of tightly like family. I mean, it sounds silly. We say it all the time. But he wouldn't book that much outside talent. He generally just booked his students or his friends like me and Eric and those type of people. So you kind of got that tight-knit kind of group there. But I mean, like, when me and Eric were coming up, even before Eric was on the scene as an independent wrestler, me and Joey were coming up through that, just going 4 hours one way to maybe get 2 bookings in a weekend, sleeping in our car, all the cliched shit. You'd show up in a locker room and you would be an outsider. It was very cliquey. It was very, hey brother, our main event guy tonight does the flying shoulder tackle. No one else can do a shoulder tackle tonight. Like, what? Like, okay, sure. I'm happy Jim Neidhart's here, but I can't do an international. I can't do, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And that's why we would go out of the area so often, and we come home and just be like, all right, good, the family's here. We're with people that we trust explicitly. And I just mean, like, I won't give up our local locker rooms for anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
who do you think essentially set that tone of how we conduct our locker rooms, are kind of giving it that vibe and that feel? Like, if you can say, like, who do you think was the person who created that environment, who created that vibe that we still kind of follow to this day? Is there a name or a person you would put on it?
I can't think of a specific person, honestly. Like, it just at some point, like, again, I'm not trying to bash anyone who came before me in this sport, but a lot of the old heads didn't look out for us. A lot of the old heads were worried about losing their spot to the young guys. So, like, they wouldn't offer up advice. They wouldn't offer up a seat at the table. Or, hey, come in, I'll sit down. Let's talk about what happened in your match. Hey, you want criticism? Here's a shit sandwich. Like, they would never do it. It was always like, fuck those kids. They're here to take my spot. I'm not going to give it up. And hostility would always be there. at some point in our area, all that shit left. Like we kind of all came into our own, and we realized that this scene isn't going to continue to thrive and grow if our generation now doesn't try to pass on as much knowledge as we can to that next generation. Tony, I've had 13 concussions over a course of 20 plus year career, and I took 6 years off. Like, like I want to be able to give whatever knowledge is in my concussion addled brain, my CTE addled brain, to as many kids as I possibly can, whoever wants to listen.
Yeah.
I think I'm a pretty good tag team wrestler. I think I'm a pretty good promo. I'm an okay booker. Like I have knowledge, and these kids, I keep saying these kids, and it's not a derogatory thing. It's the newer generation. They want to hear it. Like they're into it. Like even the generation, like Kit Rack generation, they're brash and they're step forward, but they want to hear what I have to say or what Eric has to say, or like that kind of thing. They're open to criticism, but they also know they're getting knowledge. They're not just getting shit on constantly. And guys like Ricky and MJ and MIT, and I can probably go on the list forever. Philly Mike, they're sponges. Mike Skyros, who I've seen come up from being a green boy carry my bags kid to last Smash show, or even at the Adena and Mike benefit show, sitting down with his opponent and being like, "Hey man, here's what we did good. Here's what needs work. Let's try doing this. You did great. Thanks for following me. I want to do it again."
That, so like we talked about in the podcast. I don't know if you listened to that episode, but Skyros, I always said, was very, very talented. A great look. Everything about Skyros is amazing. That match with him and Donnie, like, put him on
a certain way. It could have went a certain way, yeah.
On the way there, that was the match we circled for two reasons. Can Skyros help the younger guy? And is the younger guy gonna sink or swim?
Yep.
And Skyros elevated Donnie, and Donnie held his own. And it will probably go down as one of my favorite matches. And then later on that night, it was kind of the same deal with you guys and TOP.
Yeah, Donnie.
Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I think everyone in that school, that high ground school, I love their students. By the regardless of all the other craziness, I think so highly of that class of kids that are coming out of there. I think they are the future. I think there's a lot of really, really, really top people there. I wish them nothing but the best. I love every single one of them more than they fucking know. And every single one of them walked into a locker room where they were booked against a veteran talent, and they all stepped up and shined. That card was a great showcase for all of them. Yeah,
for sure. That was, I'm not sure who booked it or how well it was booked, which side booked what, but every outcome, every matchup was set to look like, here's one of our kids and here's one of the up here people. So seeing that Donnie was going against Skyros, and I first saw it in the card, I was like, okay, how's this one going to work out? Because I've known Donnie since the day you showed up at Backbreakers. Like, he's been there for a long time. He was a start and stop. And we would always get into his ear and be like, hey man, you're talented. You've got the mind for this. You have a drive for this. You just need to put your nose to the grindstone and do it. And he's finally starting to get there.
Well, I think that crew of kids, like the Sanctuary kids and those kids, are becoming not just, and honestly, I think it's because of you guys, Kit, like how you guys stick together and you have a brotherhood, you have a family, and I think they're seeing that and going, it's working for them. We should do that for each other, and they're each other's support systems.
Yeah,
in 20 years, they're going to be talking about the same exact stories, but rinse and repeat what they're doing now. They travel together. Like, hey, we have a show in Jersey. Us three aren't booked, but you two are. We're going to support and let's get in the car and go. Like, I fucking love that about all of them.
Yeah. My knees can't handle those long car trips anymore, so let those kids do it.
Yeah.
But me and Eric have been looking to work with the top kids for, man, since the day. Again, I keep like a broken record. I was there the day those two kids got their first day speech from Glory. I was there when they did their first bumps. And MJ Stacks, I just said from day one, I said, kid, if you get it reined in, you're going to be one of the best big men in the area. You might be the best big man in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And Ricky always had that natural charisma. And they just play off each other so well. I mean, I get the idea, and I get like that Ricky is doing his own thing, and he's going up above and beyond what he can do. But when him and Matt are teaming up, or him and MJ are teaming up, it is just it's next level, and they just work so well together. It's why I didn't care that we were losing to them. I would have offered to put them over if we were going over anyway. And I mean, was it a passing the torch? It was a hey, at some point our torch is going to go out, and these are the kids that take it. It wasn't it wasn't an honest to God here and take it now. But
I look at it and it kind of maybe kind of symbolic. I won't get into why, but like in that building, in that environment, in that promotion, in what it was a passing of the torch.
I mean,
unfortunately, but fortunately.
Yeah. I mean, Glory, selfishly, I was the one who lobbied for tag team titles and backbreakers. I was the one who said, hey, I think this would be a good idea. I think we have a pretty good tag scene. I think I can help you guys out. And then it was Eric who helped raise money for the belts by doing promo shots. And then Glory came to me and said, all right, I bought the belts. You convinced me. Book the tag team tournament. He gave that to me to do. If you go back and look at the tag team tournament from October of, was it 19? I think it was, yeah. Like, whenever that was, like, and it was just like, oh, you're going to let me do this. And then I thought we did a very good job of elevating tag team wrestling in the area in that building. That night, me and Eric went 3 times, Hatfield and McCoy. We worked the outfielders. We wrestled Trajan and AJ, and then we wrestled Blue and Gold. That's a hard stretch for a man who just came back after 5 years to do, and I think we did it pretty well. And in that building, like where a year prior to that, me and Eric jobbed out to the Twins to lose the belts because Gary Capetta thought it'd be a cool idea. And again, we didn't mind losing the belts because we haven't defended them that much during the pandemic and whatnot.
To this day, I still going into that card. I thought Gary was going to be with Blue and Gold. I thought that was the whole buildup, and I was like, wait, whoa, who?
Tony, I pitched it. I said, it doesn't make sense. We broke them up. Gary brings them back together, and then they beat us. It's the perfect end of the story. No, that's not what Gary wants to do. And I was like, all right, well, fuck me then, I guess, right?
Those twins, though, are very, very, very talented.
They are very, very talented.
And
they
then
were
at the show at the fucking parking lot. It worked out that one partner wasn't there, but there was another part. Like but you and Eric couldn't be there. But if one of you were there, it could have been booked at like, hey, Turner isn't 100%. Header had to go in, and then it's this tag team with a form of this tag team together, and they both win the titles, but they represent 2 different tags. Like, there could have been so much that could have went with that, and it just sucks that it all kind of like went down. Yeah,
I remember where me and Eric even were. We were somewhere else that night, and I remember hearing, I'm like, they're probably putting the belts on Blue and Gold tonight. It's about time. Because I mean, they were always the natural second in line for those belts.
Yeah. Well, the good news is I kind of have some breaking news from the Eric one. He sent me the footage. I have the footage of the Diamond City TOP match because the camera went down that night. I am going to go through my bag, and I'm going to pull out the commentary. I am going to add the commentary of me and BP to that match, and it will go up on the Anthony Blackwell Jr. channel on YouTube for everyone to enjoy.
There we go. That's what I like to hear. That match, I'm dying to watch it back. It's a ton of fun.
I'm honored that match is going to be on my channel. I really
man.
And if anybody wants it for their own channels or their own stuff, after I put the commentary on, I'm more than welcome to share that with everybody.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
But those top kids are top notch, and booked them as a tag team, booked them as singles, just booked them. They're good kids.
Yeah. I thought too, like I really like MJ Stacks, but I like MJ Stacks is kind of in like the Angelo Dawkins Montez Ford situation where everyone wants Montez, but Dawkins has been showing everybody in the world that he deserves to be talked about as well. Yeah. And after that match, you guys made MJ Stacks look like a monster. Like
we had to.
Yeah.
He's bigger than
elevated him so high. Yeah.
Yeah. Like in the whole flapjack spot, and I was able to get him up twice. And in the back, he's like, I can take it. And I was like, do you want to take it? Yeah, hit me with it. I'm like, all right, cool. So like it builds him up as a monster, and at the end of it, we still get him with it. So like, and that kid, he deserves me the same level as Ricky, because as a tag 100%. Team, they can do anything they want. That's their world that they want it.
Yeah. All right. Well, if anyone has any last questions or anything else going along with what's going on here, please put any final questions, remarks, comments in the chat. We'll read them off to you. Brad, is there anything that we didn't go over that you want to put over, talk about, get out there for the world to hear?
Not I can think of, man. This has been an easy flow, man. I just looked at my watch and like we've been going for a while.
Yeah. Hunter, he goes, as always, I like to ask my trademark question near the end of the show. If you can write a letter to your younger self, what would it say?
Oh man, never stop fighting. Never. I settled at some point in my life, and I never should have settled. I should have just kept going and just kept fighting and fighting and fighting. I'm happy I found that fight later on in life, but man, yeah, write that to my younger self. Never stop fighting.
Yeah, you 100%, man. When I'm in my funks and I'm in my boats of like, oh, feeling sorry for myself, or why isn't things working for me, or why am I not growing like I should be growing, or why I just pity partying myself, or
Yeah.
like, can I get this done? And honestly, man, you're one of those people that I purposely have certain people favorited as my favorite on social media. I don't go on, I don't do a lot on, but I have it set so when you guys post, you guys are my top ones I see first, because you motivate me, dude. Like seeing where you came from and you hit the gym and it just like taking those baby steps and working and just keep grinding and grinding and grinding. And then every time I'm at a show and you're on it, man, I'm happy to see you and Eric, because I know for a fact that I can like run stuff by you guys or be like, hey, I'm going through this. What can you help me with? Or with commentary or content, anything. You guys are just absolute bright spots, man. And you're if the day ever comes where you both don't want to wrestle anymore, it would be a fucking shame if someone in this business did not keep you guys around backstage for what anything they possibly need. And I'd hope you would accept that and still be a part of this, even when you guys don't want to do this anymore. I'm not saying you're close to done, because there's plenty of fuel in those tanks, but it's crazy to me if you own a school or you run a school in this area and you wouldn't want people like you guys there. If I was running a company, I would make sure you guys are booked every time, because you just bring an environment to the locker room that is much needed.
Good. I appreciate everything you just said. It means the world to me. And again, I'm just trying to give back as much as I can before I don't have any more gas in that tank.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just here to have fun, dude.
Yeah.
I just want to have
Pete
fun.
says dream match against any Japanese star in their prime.
Oh shit. Masahiro Chono. I'm gonna go Chono.
Chono.
I mean, I'm wearing the Mitzvah shirt and it says it right there, but I would just love to go just the Mafia kick with Masahiro Chono. It would just be perfect.
My Japanese guy right now, because I'm still learning that whole thing, is the Murder Grandpa. I love.
Oh man, Minoru Suzuki. Hell yeah,
he's pretty dope. And then who's the guy who's in the Bullet Club? The real young dude who looks like he's built like a superhero. Super young. He wears like a crazy mask and then he takes off and wrestles with it.
Oh, I'm trying to think. I'm not down on.
I'm terrible with Japanese names, but he looks so good. Yeah.
If you real quick, you want a good Murder Grandpa match? I'm not sure if you watched it yet. The Minoru
him versus
Suzuki.
Effie.
Well, I mean, yeah, but him versus Okada from Suzuki's 30th anniversary show. It's outdoors and it's pouring rain. So Okada comes out, Rainmaker. It's pouring rain. The whole match. Suzuki's in all white gear. He gets sung to the ring. It is just incredible. I'll find it for you and I'll link it to you. It is such a good
Please
match.
do. It's Ishimori. Thank you. And he's not young. Sorry, I didn't know. I thought he was young because he looks super young. But
Taiji Ishimori, not a young boy.
He's awesome. He's super dope. I love everything about that guy. He's probably a reason if I were to start watching Japanese wrestling, he'd be it. But I'm learning. I'm getting there. I promise I'll get better at it. But Brad, thank you so much again for your time. We didn't even get into like pop culture or things you're into besides professional wrestling.
Yeah, man. I knew you and Eric had a good talk about Turtles figures and whatnot, and the love of pop culture. And there's so many comic book things we can talk about, but we've already gone over an hour, and we could do another hour some other time if you want.
Absolutely, the door's always open. Like I said, I have the other content where we can do movie reviews or comic book reviews. I'm still down to do that, where it's going to be very similar. We just jump in and talk about it. Eric pitched the idea that because we talked about too how we want to start doing more stuff as a team and like getting people together besides if it's like after shows are like, hey, let's all go see a movie this weekend. Like, let's get all together and go see a movie, or let's go bowling or something crazy. You know what I mean? Like just hanging out with each other outside of wrestling things, because I think that's important to do, and I think it'd be really fun to do. So yeah, I think one of the episodes, I don't know if you've seen me and my wife doing the Scream, and then we just did Cocaine Bear.
I did. I don't know. The Scream one was really good. I'm gonna tune into the Cocaine Bear. I'm still looking to watch that.
Yeah. So we booked when Turtles comes out. We're gonna get a car full and sit in the car and talk. We're gonna see Turtles, and then we're gonna get in the car afterward and talk about it.
You go to Cinemark, and I'm at Old Forge now again, so I'm literally 5 minutes from Cinemark, and that's my go-to theater.
So good.
I can't wait to see Turtles there. When the new Mario Brothers comes out, I'm there opening day.
Same.
I'm a big Nintendo guy. I've got my Zelda hat on, as you can see there.
I had it next to me, but my Switch is not next to me like as it was. But much cool stuff.
My fourth playthrough of Breath of the Wild before Tears of the Kingdom comes out in May. So yeah, I'll be hooked up to that.
A paranormal hunt. I'll do that. I'll do a paranormal hunt. I don't really believe in it, but I'll go do it.
It's a lot of good haunted places up here in the 570.
I have 2 swing and a misses when it comes to paranormal style content. So I'll try a third one. Anything can happen.
Hey man.
Yeah, but thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. A lot of consistent viewers, a lot of consistent likes and shares. Thank you guys so much. You have no idea how much it means to me, how much you guys have been showing support, and how much this has grown since October. I believe we're less than 10 subscribers away over on YouTube to hit 600. The goal is still 1,000. If we can hit that, then I can start working on that monetization and getting the views over there. So if you do watch this summer. Yeah, if you guys watch this on Facebook, I love that. Make sure you share, because that's another thing too. Facebook has been paying me for you guys liking and sharing and commenting on my stuff. And it's not a lot, but I make like $40-50 every month, and it costs you guys nothing, but it means the world just to hit a button. The audio is closing in on 700 plays. Spotify, Apple, it's doing really well. If you are on Spotify, I'll pull it up real quick on my phone. If you go to a past episode, if you scroll down a little bit, let me pull it up here. I have to turn my brightness down so you guys can see it. But if you say, well, with the MIT episode, if you scroll down, there's a thing that says Q&A. What did you think of this episode? You hit reply and type in a little thing in there. I'm going to start reading those replies on the podcast. So if you are listening, if you have a couple moments just to be like, hey, I really loved the episode, I would like to know this for the next time. Maybe that's a reason to bring somebody back on to talk about stuff. So all the feedback, all the engagement, you guys have been doing amazing. If you buy merchandise and you take any photos of it with you wearing it, please send it to me so I can put that out there. I want to end real quick by playing a video, and then I'm going to play outro music because this is my favorite video ever, and it's catching back on again on social media, and I love it. But Brad, thank you for so much for everything. But we're going to play this video, and then we're going to play the Billy Trey outro music, and we'll see you guys next time.
Have a good night, guys.
Here's the video.